In 2001, Roger Ebert ended his original review of Shrek with a prediction. He suspected that the film would spawn a whole franchise of sequels and spin offs, but what he couldn't have anticipated, what no one working on the film would have anticipated, was that Shrek would go on to become something genuinely singular in the history of pop culture. Not just a franchise, but a phenomenon. 25 years later, the ogre who just wanted to be left alone in his swamp has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, an annual festival held in his honor in Madison, Wisconsin, and a presence in internet culture so pervasive and strange that it has long since transcended anything its creators could have designed. The film won the first Academy Award ever given for Best Animated Feature. In 2020, it was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry, and after three sequels and two spin offs, a seventh Shrek film is currently in production, set to be released next year. And to say that the impact of Shrek is still felt after 25 years almost feels like an understatement. In Ebert's own words, one movie could not contain him. And here's what makes all of that even more remarkable. At the time, a lot of the people involved didn't even want to be working on this movie. When directors Andrew Adamson and Vicki Jensen first came together to work on the project in 1997, basing it on the 1990 children's picture book by William Steig, Jensen recalled that being assigned to it felt like, and I'm quoting directly, being sent to Siberia. Technology that had never been attempted was proving difficult. Rendering Donkey's fur and Fiona's graceful movements represented a level of technical ambition that was still pushing the upper limits of what computer animation was capable of at the time. The original intended voice of Shrek, beloved Saturday Night Live comedian Chris Farley, ended up dying at 33, having already recorded much of his performance. His replacement, Mike Myers, subsequently decided, after completing his entire performance, to re record the whole role with a Scottish accent, requiring a significant number of scenes to be adjusted. That a film produced under these conditions became a masterpiece is one of the more improbable stories in Hollywood history. When Shrek arrived 25 years ago today, everything about it felt subversive. Walt Disney Animation Studios was still the dominant name in the genre, and then Shrek came along and directly satirized everything Disney had built their brand on, with a gleeful confidence that felt like genuine provocation. The Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, The Big Bad Wolf, all of them stripped of their Disney associations and deposited in a swamp alongside an ogre who wanted nothing to do with any of them. The film's villain, Lord Farquaad, surveys his princess options like a corporate executive making a personnel decision. The magic mirror operates like a game show host. The entire apparatus of the fairy tale is present, but inverted, aware of its own conventions, and playfully contemptuous of them. This had essentially never been done in animation before. But here's what the satire alone cannot explain. Shrek endured not just because it was clever, but because it had a heart. Beneath all of the in-jokes and pop culture references and fairy tale parody, there was an ogre worth caring about. A lonely creature with an inferiority complex, born of a lifetime of being told he was monstrous, who turned out to be nothing of the kind. Fiona's secret, when it is revealed, is not a curse to be broken, it is a truth to be accepted. And the film's vision of love is genuinely radical for a family animated feature of the time, arguing not that love makes us into something better than we are, but that love chooses to see what we actually are and chooses us anyway. Mike Myers' warm Scottish brogue, drawn from memories of his father, gives the Shrek character a texture that no animation can manufacture on its own. The gruffness that conceals tenderness, the irritability that masks longing, the bewildered delight of a being who has spent his whole life being told he is unworthy of it. What no one anticipated in 2001 was how completely Shrek would reshape the entire landscape of animated family filmmaking. The offbeat, ironic, celebrity voiced, pop culture saturated animated feature that has been standard industry practice for 25 years now, tracing its DNA directly back to that first improbable film. Andrew Adamson continued to direct the Shrek films until eventually deciding to only write the story for the third one, handing over the director's reins to new talent and moving on to spearhead Walden Media's The Chronicles of Narnia film franchise instead. DreamWorks would follow Shrek with Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, and a catalog that bears Shrek's stamp on every frame. The entire genre, for better and worse, was ultimately reshaped by a production that some of the people involved initially wanted nothing to do with. And then, of course, there are the memes. Inexhaustible, surreal, and often incomprehensible, continuing to propagate across every corner of the internet to this day. Roger Ebert was right, of course. One movie could not contain Shrek. But what I find most remarkable 25 years on is not the sequels or the spin offs or the memes or the festival in Wisconsin. It's the fact that the original film still works. It still makes you laugh, still makes you feel something genuine in its final act, and still argues with complete sincerity that the qualities the world tells you make you unlovable are precisely the qualities that make you worth loving. Every generation that discovers Shrek finds something new in it. Some joke they hadn't caught, some truth they weren't old enough to recognize the first time. The film famously tells us that ogres are like onions, and so it turns out is the film itself. Peel back another layer, and there's always something more. 25 years on, Shrek remains, as Smash Mouth once declared, an all-star. He always was. Shrek is available to buy on 4K Blu-ray, and with the new sequel being released next year, there has never been a better time to revisit where it all started. So let me know in the comments, what does Shrek mean to you? Which film in the franchise is your favorite? Aside from the original, I'm a big fan of 2022's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish myself. In any case, don't forget to subscribe to Fandom Frontline for more deep dives into the stories that shape our fandom.